Welcome to Under the Golden Dome. This week concludes the first legislative funnel week where a bill has to make it out of a committee in one chamber to remain alive. And as you can imagine, that means we had a lot of subcommittees and a lot of discussion as legislators tried to push their pet priorities through to remain alive for further consideration. The common themes that we hear during this is, it's a work in progress and we want to keep the conversation going. My theory is if the bill isn't really necessary and has problems, let's just not move it. Unfortunately, legislators sometimes take a different view. You'll be getting a full lineup in our advocacy and action page of all the bills that survived the legislative funnel and the ones that didn't, and a further discussion on a podcast that will be available on Friday about a lot of the other education bills that we've been engaged with. But today I want to talk about some of the positive things and maybe one negative thing with respect to education bills and this funnel week. Number one, I want to start with vouchers. Vouchers is dead. That doesn't mean that it can't resurface, but there is not enough support within the Republican caucus in the House to move forward with vouchers. You did great work talking with legislators and helping them understand why this was the wrong public policy. We're going to keep our eye on it. We're not going to stop worrying about it. But for the moment, our attention is going to shift to one of the bad things that happened this week, and that is new charter school legislation. The House Education Committee passed that on a party line vote last night, so that does remain alive, but they did indicate during the committee that there's still a lot of work to be done, and we've been asked to sit down with some of the legislative leaders in the governor's office to talk about how we might provide more protections for those public taxpayer dollars and ensure that there is the appropriate oversight. As a reminder, IASB is not opposed to charter schools as long as they are under the governance of a locally elected school board. And obviously that's what we're going to be trying to do as we work with legislators on that legislation. Also last night, the House Education Committee passed out kind of a mini education omnibus bill. This bill included a number of things, and probably the most controversial provision for school districts across the state was the requirement that we participate in a state-developed information management system. Not only that we participate, but that we pay for it. This was going to require districts to maintain basically two separate and distinct information management systems and pay the cost for both. During the debate in the House Education Committee, that provision was struck. So that bill at this point is really not all that objectionable. Also yesterday, three really good things happened in the Senate Education Committee. Number one, the Senate Education Committee approved a bill that will create a tiered program for English language learners and provide a little additional resources through the weighting. The bill mirrors the one that passed the House Education Committee a couple of weeks ago, so we feel confident that there's going to be an investment and some modifications to the ELL program going forward. Number two, the Senate Education Committee approved a bill that establishes a learning recovery task force, including teachers and school administrators and school board members talking about what can we do and what supports are needed to help students catch back up after the COVID pandemic is over and we return to more normal instruction. That's certainly in line with one of our priority policies, so we're pleased to see that moving forward. Finally, and this gets to another priority policy in terms of mental health, the Senate Education Committee approved a bill that will allow for a certificate of recognition for applied behavioral analysts. These are people that work with children with autism, and school districts have been struggling to hire them because the DE didn't recognize them because there was no certificate of recognition. This is going to help get more mental health professionals in our schools and ensure that they can be compensated for the work that they do. So that's ending on a good note. I think we're making some really good progress on a number of our policies. As we look forward to next week, what you're going to see is a lot of floor debate, both in the House and the Senate. The Senate can only consider Senate bills, and the House can only consider House bills. So I anticipate we'll see a lot of things moving to the floor in both chambers for debate as they get ready for the next funnel, which is the first Friday in April.